Hello and welcome to our today's Coffee and Consulting from Convenus and our today's topic, working from home, teleworking, what the future regulation will look like. And what we do today is going in a bit of detail in regard to the social security aspects about it, as there had been a recent update in regard to the social security part. I hope you already started well into this week. My name is Friederike, and I have the honor to be today your host for the Coffee and Consulting event. Before we really start and go into detail, on the right-hand side you will find a box where you will see our slides. So in case you would like to download them, please do so. The other thing is we are happy to answer any questions you may have and any questions you will have to that topic. Please write them down during the presentation in the chat box, or better to say in the question box. I will answer them after the first couple of slides of the presentation, so you will have the answer straight away. In case you will not find the time to write your question down, don't worry, you can drop us an email and we will then answer the email afterwards. So let's get into the topic. I assume you also have to deal with the question or the topic that your employees would like to work from home or would like to work more and more from abroad, like those workation or teleworking stuff. And there had been also a discussion with the social security authorities within the last couple of months, as well as there are some discussions still in regard to labor law questions, as well as other tax and other legal questions regarding those teleworking aspects within Europe, at least. What we have seen is there is an increased demand from everybody for working from home, and as a company, you will have to determine or define your policy regarding that working from home or teleworking. There is a big relief because there was a huge discussion in regards to the social security affair, and we're happy that we can today already provide you with an update on it, what will happen in regard to social security obligation. You will see on the right-hand side of that slide a chart with information from data from Statista. This is from 2020, but there you see as already that in which countries working from home is kind of a more trend than in others, and the data from 2020 had not been fully already looked at, and therefore we will not able to show them to you. But apparently the data is more or less in line with the numbers as 2020. The numbers had been increased, but what is similar is that if we look at the Nordic countries, there is a kind of huger demand or huge demand, 25.1%, as well as in And if you look at our Switzerland is also a high demand, 70.2%. So that had been a kind of similar with the data from 2020, that there were Switzerland as well as in the Nordics, it was quite a huge demand. So the recommendation we just can give to all clients or to everybody is look at your companies. I mean, you know the information and you know the data and what you most likely will have to look at. But look in the end at your company and look at whether that is really something you can offer also from a legal point of view, because there are a couple of legal aspects we also today will not really look at. Maybe based on your sector, you cannot work from another country, and therefore there's no question at all from it. If there is kind of IT restrictions or other restrictions. Find the right work pattern for your own company. And what I also suggest is that you will kind of ask your employee for feedbacks as well. I had been on a conference in Amsterdam in early this year, and there was one company who shared the information about their workation policy, and they said they are quite flexible with it. They had in a year about 3,000 requests of it. They were willing to do that, but only up to 30 days. In the end, they made a survey and looked at how many days really had been requested by an employee. And in average, they saw it was about 8 days a year. So much less than those 30 days they offered. But in the same survey they had done with the employees said they actually thought they had too little days where they can use for vacation. So they asked for more than those 30 days. But the reality showed that they not even requested those 30 days. They just thought somehow they had a feeling it was not enough. So if you do then make such surveys, you also see whether whatever kind of work pattern you thought you would like to implement and thought would be the best fit, whether that is the reality shows that as well. You also will have to kind of put that down in a guideline and then determine some processes around. So I said already in regard to Social Security, there had been, or there will be now coming a new regulation in place. Now, for who will that regulation be applicable? It's not for everybody. It's basically kind of adding to the current EU agreement we have between Switzerland and the EU member states, as well as regarding the agreement between the EFTA member states and Switzerland. So the new regulation is not for anybody. So if we look from a Swiss point of view, it is for Swiss and EU nationals, as well as for Swiss and EFTA nationals. But what is today? What is the current regulation? The current regulation is that until the 30th of June 23, the 25% regulation is not applicable anymore, or any further for Swiss and EU nationals, as well as Swiss and EFTA nationals. They can work flexible at home without triggering to get subject to Social Security liability in the country the employer is situated. What does that mean? If you have a cross-border employee who works or who is resident in Germany, for example, and has his employer in Switzerland, he is German national, so he can work. He has not the restriction to work only 25 or up to 25% in Germany to not jeopardize his social security liability in Switzerland. He can work at the moment, or at least until the 30th of June 23, as much as he wants without triggering the change. Because before that regulation had been in place, this transitional ruling, it was that everybody had to look at the cross-border employees, that they are not working more than those 25% in their home country, because otherwise they would switch the social security liability from Switzerland, if we take that case now, to Germany. Now, if the cross-border employee is not now a German national, but for example, an American one, for the American national who is also residing in Germany and is employed in Switzerland, if he had worked in his home country in Germany, there was still the situation that the Social Security liability will be split between the home country, so Germany and Switzerland, based on the days he had worked in each country. We have the same situation between Switzerland and the EFTA member states, because as you may remember, there are two different agreements, and we have to look very specifically at the nationality of the employees, whether they fit in one of those agreements. Now here, the same as I just explained with the German national living in Germany, working partly in his home office in Germany and is employed in Switzerland. For Switzerland and EFTA member states, it would be similar, like someone is living in Liechtenstein, working partly in Liechtenstein in the home office, and then just being employed in Switzerland. There as well, because of that transitional ruling until the 30th of June 23, currently they can work as much as they want, but afterwards there will be then a change to it. For all the others, there are no changes. Everything will be as it is today. As said, there will be a new regulation in place as soon or as long as the member states will also sign the agreement. And the new regulation will be applicable for Swiss and EU nationals if it's about Switzerland and any EU member state, or for Swiss and EFTA nationals if it's around Switzerland and the EFTA member states. For anybody else, there are no changes at all. The current regulation as they are in place will remain the same. The countries who already said that they will sign that new framework and the new regulation are listed down here. That will change every day, and hopefully, or the idea would be that until 30th of June, everybody has then already signed that new framework so that it can be implemented accordingly. Currently, the situation is that if a country has not signed the contract or signed the new framework by 30th of June, for those countries, the previous regulation we had will be coming in place again, and only for those who have signed it by then, the new regulation, which we will talk about in a second, will come in place. So for the moment, it will be that you always have to look at the countries who have signed it, whether you can implement the new regulation or not. Now, with the new regulation, not everything is much better, but there are a couple of aspects which are quite favorable, at least for cross-border workers. And if we look at our cross-border employees, so mainly they are coming from France. France has currently not intended to sign it. From Germany, which is on the list, Austria is also on the list, Liechtenstein is also on the list, and Italy, but Italy has also not already said they will sign it. But we will have to look for those two countries because they are also quite essential for us. What is the new thing which will come up? The new regulation is that for cross-border workers or from home, they can work up to 49.9% without triggering the social security liability in their country of residence. So if we take the example from previously, the German national who is working from home or who had been partly working from home and was employed in Switzerland, he can now work 2 days in average every week at home without the need or without triggering to get to be in the end subject to German social security contributions. He will remain under the Swiss system. So, which is very, very favorable because up to now it was just 1 day, the 25%, which is in the end about 20%. So 1 day in average, somebody definitely can work at home without any problems. Now, there are a couple of restrictions you will have to look at as well. Now, the cross-border worker and those 49.9% is only applicable if the employee is not taking over additional tasks in the home country. So our German national, who is working now for 2 days in his home office, if he's also taking over, for example, client meetings in Germany or visiting clients in Germany, that would actually mean the whole those 49.9% are not applicable for him. So this will be kind of a negative point. So if that part is met, the 49.9% are not applicable for him. The other thing is, if he is not now working not only in the home office, but also working in another EU EFTA member state. So even those countries have signed that new agreement, if our German national, for example, is also working in Austria a day or 2 days in a month, then, for example, those 49.9% would also not possible for him. The last point for employees will also be where it's not applicable in the end is in case he is now, for example, on a Saturday taking some additional classes giving some classes as a teacher in the school, or being a lecturer in a university, or being a soccer coach on the weekend or in the evening. All those will be another job, and if that is the case, then also those 49.9% cannot be granted to the employee. As well as that, new regulation is not applicable for self-employed employees. So when we were first heard that it will be possible to work in the end for about 50% from home without triggering a change of the Social Security. We thought, oh, that is a great thing, and that's definitely what we need. Now, looking at the first 3 points to see when those 49.9% will then not be possible at all, there might be some cases where we then have to struggle a bit. But still, we are happy to have those 49.9%. It's definitely better than the 25%. And I think the majority of cases, you may be able to have a better regulation in place as today. So if somebody is working now as a cross-border worker from home for up to 25%, then the Social Security liability will be in the country where the employer is situated, and no A1 is required. So you won't need to request that. However, we think it would be much better if you still request it, at least for the upcoming months or years, because in case somebody would like to check on it, and which would be, for example, the health insurance company in the country of residency of the employee or anybody else, then that would be much better to have it in place. In case your cross-border employee will work up to 49.9% in his home country, and all the other additional conditions are met, then the Social Security liability will still remain in where the employer is situated, but you would need to request an A1. And in case it is above those 50%, then definitely the Social Security liability will get back to the country of residence. So our German national who is residing in Germany and employed in Switzerland, if he is working just 1 day a week in his home office, nothing needs to be done. He will be subject to Swiss Social Security. No A1 is required. If he now also is doing or is taking some client meetings in Germany with other clients, or has an additional job or will have to go from time to time to another EU member state, then for him, if he remains under those 25% in his country of residency, then he still is subject to Swiss Social Security. However, if he wants to benefit from a higher number of days in working from home, then he has to really look that he will not do any of the other conditions, so that he can remain subject to Social Security in Switzerland and be exempted in Germany. So I think that is quite positive. However, we will have to see how it then will work out in practice. I assume that there will be the one or the other still matter we have to look at a bit closer, and there might be also situations where we definitely will struggle with. The other positive part is the A1 can, and that is one thing, can be requested also retroactively, so you don't have to just get now all sign on for all the A1s for anybody starting 1st of July onwards. You can do that retroactively, as well as the A1 will be valid for 3 years in principle. Now there is another thing which is quite positive, which goes into those teleworking or vacation thing, because currently we used the assignment paragraph or assignment provision in the EU-EFTA agreement for workation or teleworking from another country, which was not quite correct. Now, with the new regulation or the new framework, it is explicitly indicated that workation or teleworking from another country is also allowed for up to those 24 months. Now, if the employee is going on an assignment, that can also be extended beyond those 24 months as an exception, and as long as both countries, so the host country as well as the home country, will agree on it. However, for someone now going on to work telework, be like remote working, teleworking, it's really maximum those 24 months and not longer. It cannot be extended. So it's really like kind of an exception for those people. So I think that is also quite a positive aspect regarding the new regulation from in regard to Social Security. There is no change as to the current regulation for taxes, as well as labor law or any other law or immigration law that still remains in place and has to be reviewed for each case. But to sum up, I think it's positive for all those cross-border employees that they definitely can be a bit more flexible and can work a bit longer from their home office. As well as what I think is a positive part is that we have a legal provision now for all those workation matters, which makes it also much easier and better as before. This is what we wanted to share with you today in regard of teleworking in our days. Now there will be time for your questions. So in case you have any questions to it, or you maybe have not thought about that before and might have a question also afterwards, then yes, please send us an email and we're happy to look at. I think what would be good now is to provide the information to your cross-border employees, maybe check as well how much they had been working before in their home office and whether that is something they really would like to do, so you can kind of provide them a better with a better solution. However, please also keep in mind that there is a tax bit you have to look at as well. And from a tax point of view, there are a couple of countries looking into the matter whether the home office might qualify as a permanent establishment. And therefore, even there's a relaxation from a social security point of view, there might be from a tax point of view just the contradictory aspect. So always you will need to kind of look at both elements for any situation you have. Now we have the first question, and that is a French national is currently living in Austria. He is working from 2 days a week in his home office and will work now and is working 1 day in a different EU country. How will be the situation? The individual is with 2 days working from home. He is below those 50%, so that would be good kind of for the new regulation. he will be in that limit. Now, the problem is that he is working in another EU member state. So there are two solutions to it. One solution is you see that he's not working in the other EU member state and just will work from home those 2 days a week, and you have someone else doing that job in the other EU member state. Or the other way is that you will tell him that he has to reduce his home office days to maximum those 25%, so that he can remain subject to Social Security in his in Switzerland. The next question is, let me see. Could you please elaborate on the A1 certificate? As of when is such a certificate needed? The rule or the kind of the information the authority will provide you basically from the first day. Now, in practice, and also to say there are already a couple of countries which say it's not required for short business trips. Like Finland, for example, had just recently made a statement that they think it's not required to get an A1 certificate if someone is just going on a short business trip for a couple of days or going on a conference or something. And a couple of other countries have then, after that statement, said in their opinion, that is true, because otherwise they have so much of issuing those A1 certificates, which is just the paper stuff and just a huge administration on it. However, you always will have situations if people go on a construction site, for example, or on certain restricted sites where an A1 is definitely required from day one. Otherwise, my recommendation is always, if you have to request a work permit in the other country, or you have to do a notification or something, then also request the A1 certificate. In case you don't have to do a work permit or a notification, those posted worker notifications or so on, then, and it's not required from any other aspect, then I would say for a period for up to 5 days, no A1 is required, or you won't request it. It's just that is not something set by law. And there's also maybe one point to it. Do that in countries where you definitely know you can request an A1 certificate retroactively, like you can do in Switzerland. However, there are countries like in the UK. Okay, UK is not EU any longer, but the Czech Republic is also a country where you can't do that retroactively. So in countries where you can request an A1 retroactively, you can be a bit more flexible. Where in countries you can't do that, then I would just do it from day one, because you never know whether you need it. And in Switzerland, I can say there are an increase of labor market controls. You may have also already seen that, and when they do those labor market controls, they always ask for the A1 certificate. So at that time point, you definitely will need that as well. I hope that that will answer the A1 certificate, and we will see. I mean, I expect that also Switzerland will say at some point, or make a statement at some point, that for short business trips, no A1 is required. However, I also have to say, with using Alps, it's much, much easier to do, as previously when you had to print out or make those requests through the social security authorities. So the ALPS is also something which is quite helpful and much easier to administrate. Are there any other questions from your side? Otherwise, we are actually at the end of our today's Coffee and Consulting. Thank you very much for joining today. And if you have any other questions, then just drop us an email and we are happy to respond. Before I close, I just would like to draw your attention to our next webinar, which will be on the 20th of June, about cross-border employment and the social security matters. This topic from today, the new framework, will definitely be also part of it. And then our next seminar, which is also still online, about remote work, vacation, where we will go through all the aspects around it, because the increase we see is still quite beyond what we thought will happen. Thank you very much for your attention today, and I hope to see you soon at one of our next events, and have a great and wonderful week. Thank you.